everyone! Our story today is all about something that I think some of us have been working on while we've been home. I've been working on it. I'm sure some of my co-teachers have been working in it, and I think some of our families have been too. It's all about working in the garden. This is Muncha, Muncha, Muncha by Candace Flemming and G. Brian Carus. For years, Mr. McGreely dreamed of planting a garden. He dreamed of getting his hands dirty, of growing yummy vegetables, and of gobbling them all up. But he never once tried until, "This spring," said Mr. McGreely, "this spring, by golly, I'm going to plant a garden." So he hoed and he sowed, and he watched his garden grow. Lettuce, carrots, peas, tomatoes, yum, yum, yummy, cried Mr. McGreely. I'll soon fill my tummy with crisp, fresh veggies. Can you guys see who's watching him down here? But one night, when the sun went down and the moon came up, 3 hungry bunnies appeared. Tippy, 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 pat. Muncha, muncha, muncha. What did they do? The next morning when Mr. McGreely saw his nod sprouts, he was angry. So he built a small wire fence all around his vegetable garden. There, he declared, no bunny can get into my garden now. Who's still watching him? And the sun went down and the moon came up and tippy, 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 pat, spring, hurdle, dash, dash, dash. Muncha, muncha, muncha. The next morning when Mr. McGreely saw his nibbled leaves and gnawed sprouts, he was really angry. So he built a tall wooden wall behind the small wire fence all around his vegetable garden. Humph, he huffed. Those flop ears will never get over it. No bunny can get into my garden now. See 3 sets of ears. Somebody's still watching. And the sun went down and the moon came up and tippy, 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 pat, dig, scrabble, scratch, 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 spring, hurdle, dash, dash, dash. Muncha, muncha, muncha. Ooh, those bunnies. The next morning when Mr. McGreely saw his chewed stems, his nibbled leaves, and his gnawed sprouts, he was really, really angry. So he made a deep, wet trench outside the tall wooden wall behind the small wire fence all around his vegetable garden. Ha! He snorted. Those pufftails can't get under it. They can't get over it. No bunny can get into my garden now. And the sun went down and the moon came up. Tippy, 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 pat. Dive, paddle, splash, splash, splash. Dig, scrabble, scratch, scratch, scratch. Spring, hurdle, dash, dash, dash. Muncha, muncha, muncha. They swam through the moat. They went under the wall and over the fence. And they still got those veggies. The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his chomped blossoms, his chewed stems, his nibbled leaves, and his gnawed sprouts, he was furious. So he hammered and blocked and sawed and stalked, drilled and filled and trapped and locked, and he built a huge, enormous thing before the deep wet trench, outside the tall wooden wall, behind the small wire fence, all around his vegetable garden. I've outsmarted those twitch whiskers for sure, he exclaimed. They can't get through it, they can't get under it, and they can't get over it. No bunny, no way, no how can get into my garden now. See, those bunnies are still watching. And the sun went down and the moon came up and tippy, 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 stop. The 3 hungry bunnies looked and smelled and touched the huge, enormous thing before them and tippy, 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 pat, the bunnies hopped away. They didn't get in. The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his untouched vegetables, he was happy. Look how happy he is. I beat the bunnies, he whooped, and he did a jiggly-wiggly victory dance. Then he climbed over, jumped across, squeezed between, and crawled under until he reached his vegetable garden. Ah, sighed Mr. McGreely. At last, smacking his lips, he picked and pulled up lettuce, carrots, peas, tomatoes, and with his basket overflowing, he reached inside for something yummy. Friends, I think that the 3 hungry bunnies might have stowed away with Mr. McGreely there. And what did they do? Muncha, muncha, muncha! But this time, they shared with Mr. McGreely. The end.